Previously on A Love That Lingered, Grace endured a night of agony, delivering her child far too soon. The baby girl was stillborn, perfect yet silent, and Grace was left broken with grief. Oliver stayed by her side, determined she would not suffer alone, while Lady Caldwell did all she could to keep the household steady. This is episode 30, Names for the Unseen. The first morning after was eerily quiet. The manor, usually full of faint movement, the shuffle of maids, the clink of porcelain, the echo of Oliver's footfalls, seemed hushed, as though the walls themselves knew what had been lost. A gloom hung heavy in the corridors, creeping even into the brightest corners. Grace stirred weakly in her bed, her body trembling from fever and fatigue. The sweat that dampened her brow was cold, clammy, and Oliver had not slept all night, too afraid to leave her, even for a breath. Lady Caldwell had relieved him only once, forcing him to drink water before he resumed his post. Her eyes fluttered open now, wide and unmoored, drifting around the room until they found Oliver. Her lips parted, her voice soft as the rustle of paper. "The baby. I want to hold her." Oliver froze. His heart twisted at the request, at the way her voice cracked on the words. For a long moment he couldn't find air to speak. Then he nodded, rising from the chair beside her bed. She's here," he said quietly, moving toward the small cradle in the corner of the chamber. The child still lay swaddled in soft linen, untouched since Lady Caldwell had wrapped her. Oliver's throat tightened as he lifted the bundle, so small and weightless in his arms. He crossed back to the bed, kneeling carefully beside Grace. "You're weak," he warned gently. "I'll lay her here beside you. That way you won't tire." Grace nodded, tears already gathering as Oliver placed the swaddled infant against her side. She turned, pressing trembling fingers to the tiny cheek, tracing the delicate features. Her lips quivered with grief too deep for words. "Hello, my darling," she whispered, a mother's lullaby in her tone, though her voice was ragged with sorrow. "I'm so sorry I couldn't keep you safe." Oliver bowed his head, swallowing against the tightness in his chest. Grace's gaze lingered on the child's still face. After a long silence, she murmured, "She should have a name." Oliver looked up, startled by the sudden certainty in her voice. Grace pressed her lips to the baby's forehead, tears falling freely. "Anthea," she whispered. "Anthea Rose, for Arthur's grandmother, and for the flowers I love in the garden." Oliver's breath caught. He nodded, his eyes wet. "Anthea Rose Caldwell. It's beautiful." Grace smiled faintly, though it trembled. "Promise me, Oliver. Bury her at the edge of the woods, just far enough in that no one will stumble upon her. I couldn't bear to see the grave every day." Her voice broke, her grip on the swaddled bundle tightening. "Promise me she'll be safe there." Oliver hesitated, the thought of lowering the child into the earth making his stomach lurch. But Grace's eyes pleaded, and he could not deny her. He pressed her hand to his lips. "I promise." The burial was quiet, solemn, and carried out under the cover of dawn. Oliver alone bore the tiny bundle to the woods, his steps heavy, his hands trembling as he dug into the cold earth. No priest was called, no rites spoken aloud. Grace had wished it to remain a secret. Only the trees bore witness as Oliver laid the child into the shallow grave, his heart breaking with each motion of the spade. He whispered her name once like a prayer, "Anthea Rose." When he returned, he found Grace pale and fevered. She had not eaten since the birth, her body refusing food, her strength dwindling. Ethel sat beside her bed with a cool cloth, whispering encouragement, but the worry etched on her face betrayed her calm words. The doctor arrived by afternoon, frowning deeply as he examined Grace. He touched her wrist, pressed a hand to her brow, and pursed his lips. She has a fever, likely an infection from the birth. Oliver's blood ran cold. Can you treat it? The doctor hesitated. We'll attempt to, but the fever must break, or it will consume her. Grace stirred, her voice faint but clear enough to silence them both. If it doesn't, her gaze fixed on Oliver, pleading. Promise me, you'll bury me beside her, beside Anthea. Oliver's eyes widened, his body recoiling as though struck. Don't say that, don't, please. Grace's hand reached for his, weak and trembling. I need to know I won't leave her alone. Oliver's composure cracked. He pressed his forehead to her hand, his shoulders shaking. Don't ask me that. Don't you dare ask me that. You're not going anywhere, my lady. Her smile was faint, tired, almost resigned. You can't promise that. But you can promise me this. The room fell still. Lady Caldwell, standing behind them, closed her eyes, her lips pressing into a firm line as though swallowing her own grief. She placed a hand gently on Oliver's shoulder. If it brings her peace, we must let her ask it. Oliver shook his head violently. No, she has to fight. She has to stay alive. He turned his tear-streaked face toward Grace, his voice raw. Arthur would never forgive me if I let you go. Grace's eyes softened at the mention of Arthur. She clutched Oliver's hand faintly, her tears wetting the pillow. Then pray he forgives us both. For hours the fever raged. Oliver sat vigil, watching the rise and fall of her chest, each shallow breath scraping against his heart. Lady Caldwell kept the household steady, though grief shadowed her steps. Servants moved quietly, their faces drawn, for the weight of sorrow pressed on every corner of the manor. In the dim glow of lamplight, Oliver confessed in a whisper to Grace, though she slept. I've buried too much for one lifetime. I can't bury you too. Please, please don't leave me to carry this alone. The fever burned on into the night. Grace caught between restless dreams and shivering weakness. She murmured Arthur's name again and again, sometimes weeping, sometimes smiling faintly as though she saw him standing there. Oliver never moved from her side, wringing cool cloths, coaxing water past her lips, whispering comfort she barely seemed to hear. Every moment felt borrowed, every shallow breath a coin slipping through his fingers. At one point, Grace opened her eyes, glassy and fever-bright, and whispered, Do you think Arthur knows about Anthea? Oliver choked back a sob. If there's any justice in this world, he does. And if not, then we'll tell him when he returns, together. Her lips trembled into a faint smile. Together, she sighed, her body sinking deeper into the bed, exhaustion tugging her toward the edge. Oliver pressed her hand to his chest again, as he had the night before. Stay with me. Feel that. That's life. That's what you hold on to. For a moment she seemed to listen. Her breathing steadied, her hand tightening faintly in his. But the fever still lingered, the shadow of death close at hand. Lady Caldwell entered then, her eyes glistening though her composure remained. She carried a basin of fresh water, replacing the cool cloth on Grace's brow. You must rest, Oliver. You cannot keep this vigil alone. I can, Oliver said fiercely, and I will. I gave Arthur my word, even if he never heard it. She won't face this alone. Ethel's gaze softened. She touched his cheek briefly, a mother's gesture. Then may God give you strength enough for two. The night stretched on, heavy and endless. Grace drifted between fevered dreams, whispering Arthur's name, sometimes Anthea's, her voice faint as a sigh. Oliver sat beside her, his hand never leaving hers, his eyes bloodshot but unyielding. As dawn crept across the sky, painting the world in pale gray light, Grace stirred. Her fever-bright eyes opened, her lips parting as though to speak. Oliver leaned closer, hope trembling in his chest. "Arthur," she whispered, her voice breaking into a sob. "Arthur's here." Oliver's heart stopped. He looked toward the door, half believing he might see the man himself standing there. But the doorway was empty. Only silence answered,